Hi, I'm Jeremy Lanier, and today I'm going to show you how easy it is to provision brand new, highly available SQL Server cluster environments along with new database schemas from Era. So to provision a database cluster, I'm going to go ahead and click Provision and Cluster Database. I'm going to choose Microsoft SQL Server from the available list of engines, and I'm going to choose to create a brand new Windows cluster along with that database. So we'll give the cluster a name, call this MS SQL CLTR1. I'm going to choose a compute profile, which will define the t-shirt size for each of the virtual machines in that cluster. I'll choose a network profile, which will lay out and associate each node in that cluster with a specific set of VLANs and IP address mappings. I'll choose to join it to an Active Directory domain. And I'll set an additional password for the system. And then I'll go ahead and select a software profile. Think of that as a pre-cut, sort of cookie cutter way of you choosing which versions of Windows and SQL Server at different patch levels that you want to be published for to be used for database as a service. So this is with SQL Server 2014 and Windows 2012. And this happens to be running SP3 and cumulative update 3 on SQL Server. I'll choose a set of instance level parameters to help define the spec of that instance. Choose a startup account that I want to use. I'll choose my authentication model, and I'm also going to grant a developer account access to this test environment after it's been provisioned. So that's the database cluster. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a database, create a brand new database schema. So we'll just call this MSDB 1 or 2 in this case. We'll give this a whopping 3 terabytes of size. Now you may notice here that I'm just asking you for input on the size of the database schema. Nowhere are we asking for information about the size of the file system and the number of drives and the formatting of the disks, or the amount of space to reserve for temporary database processing and log files and the like. All of these have been factored in automatically based on Nutanix and Microsoft best practices and have been tied to our cloud platform. So you just enter your size of your schema and you get the best of possible worlds. And finally, I'll choose the topology for the AAG environment. So we're going to say that there's going to be 4 nodes in this environment. So we're going to basically deploy a 4-node AAG cluster. And we'll just set up the first 2 for a synchronous commit with automatic failover, and we'll keep the rest of these as basically read-only standbys, if you will. We'll create a new AAG group. We'll just call this AG3. And finally, I'll choose the data protection policy. Now, for this mission-critical database, we're going to select a gold SLA. And what this is using a feature in Era that allows you to combine database consistent storage level snapshots with transaction log backup, so that you get a true continuous point-in-time recovery option for in-place recovery of databases or for cloning of databases into downstream dev test environments. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a high-end SLA that calls for 30 days of continuous backup recovery, and then tapers that off with daily snapshots, weeklies, etc., with various retentions defined. And of course, you can control all of these SLAs. So you can create your own and choose whatever options you want. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Provision. Now, provisioning this environment is a one-click operation, as you can see here. We track that operation here, and what you'll see is that we're going to go through a multi-step process, because Nutanix is a full vertical stack of hyperconverged storage, compute, and networking. We're going to automatically talk to that platform and not only create brand new database, SQL Server database VMs and apply all the best practices based on the standards you've defined, but we're also going to install Microsoft failover cluster software. We're going to set up AAG. We're going to attach all the necessary storage for the replicas and the primary databases, and then we're going to register that whole thing and basically make it a managed cluster database entity with Nutanix Era. Thank you for your time.